The fluorescent lights of JFK Airport flickered overhead as I rushed through the terminal, my phone pressed to my ear while dragging a stubborn suitcase behind me. The wheel caught on every crack in the tile floor, jerking my arm with each obstruction. "Mom, I'm boarding in 20 minutes, I said, dodging a family with 3 screaming children. "Yes, I have my passport. Yes, I'll be careful in Paris. No, I won't talk to strangers." My mother's worried voice continued through the speaker, listing dangers I might encounter during my first international trip. At 25, I'd never left New York, never had the money or time for adventures beyond the 5 boroughs. This Paris assignment felt like winning the lottery. A 2-week photography contract for a travel magazine that would pay more than 6 months of my usual freelance work. "I have to go. Mom, I love you." I ended the call before she could launch into another safety lecture and shoved my phone into my jacket pocket. Gate 47 loomed ahead, already boarding. I'd cut it too close as usual. Punctuality had never been my strength, a fact my ex-boyfriend had reminded me of constantly before I finally ended that toxic relationship 3 months ago. I joined the line, fumbling for my boarding pass while trying to keep my suitcase from rolling into the woman ahead of me. She shot me an irritated glance, her designer luggage and expensive perfume marking her as someone who belonged in first class, not economy with the rest of us. "Boarding pass and passport," the gate agent said mechanically. I handed them over, receiving a tired smile in return. "Enjoy your flight, Miss Chen." The jetway stretched endlessly, my suitcase protesting every step. Other passengers flowed around me with practiced efficiency, frequent flyers who knew how to navigate airports with their eyes closed. I felt like an imposter, a girl from Queens pretending to be a sophisticated international traveler. Inside the plane, I located my seat near the back, struggling to hoist my carry-on into the overhead bin. It refused to fit, no matter how I angled it. "Here, let me help." A flight attendant appeared, her smile professional as she rearranged other bags to create space. "There you go." "Thank you," I breathed, sliding into my window seat with relief. The middle seat remained empty as passengers continued boarding. I silently prayed it would stay that way, giving me room to breathe during the 7-hour flight. My camera bag sat at my feet, my most precious possession containing equipment I'd saved 3 years to afford. The overhead bins slammed shut. The cabin crew began their safety demonstration. I was really doing this, flying to Paris, chasing a dream I'd harbored since my father had given me my first camera at age 10. He'd died 2 years later, a sudden heart attack that left my mother and me scrambling financially. But I'd kept that camera, kept taking photos, kept believing that someday I'd make a living capturing moments that mattered. This assignment was that someday finally arriving. The plane taxied to the runway, engines building to a roar. I gripped the armrests as we accelerated, my stomach dropping as the wheels left the ground. New York fell away below, the city lights glittering like scattered diamonds against black velvet. 7 hours later, I woke to the captain's announcement about beginning our descent into Paris Charles de Gaulle. My neck ached from sleeping at an awkward angle, and my mouth tasted like something had died in it. Glamorous international travel, exactly as I'd imagined. The landing was smooth, the deplaning chaotic. I followed the crowd through endless corridors, through passport control where a board official barely glanced at my documents, and finally to baggage claim. Suitcases circled the carousel like tired horses on a merry-go-round. I spotted mine immediately, the bright red case I'd bought specifically because it would be easy to identify. I grabbed it, checking the luggage tag to confirm it was mine. Olivia Chen, the tag read, with my Queen's address. Perfect. I navigated customs without incident, emerging into the arrivals hall where drivers held signs with passenger names. None for me, obviously. The magazine had arranged a car service to my hotel, but I needed to find the meeting point. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Black Mercedes, parking level 2. Space 47, the car service, I assumed. I followed signs to the parking garage, dragging my suitcase behind me while trying not to look like a lost tourist. The garage was dimly lit and cold, my breath misting in the February air. Level 2 was nearly empty at this early hour. I found space 47, where a sleek black Mercedes waited with tinted windows. As I approached, the trunk popped open automatically. I loaded my suitcase, then reached for the back door. It opened before I could touch it, revealing a man in a dark suit who gestured for me to enter. "Miss Chen?" he asked in heavily accented English. "Yes, that's me." I slid into the back seat, grateful for the heated leather and the bottle of water waiting in the cup holder. The driver pulled smoothly into traffic, and I watched Paris wake up through the window. Gray dawn light painted the buildings in soft tones, the architecture more beautiful than any photograph had prepared me for. My phone rang. Unknown number, probably the magazine coordinator. "Hello? Where is it?" A man's voice, low and dangerous, speaking English with an Italian accent that sent chills down my spine. "I'm sorry, who is this?" "Don't play games." "Where is the package?" "I think you have the wrong number. Red suitcase, JFK to Paris. Flight 227. You took something that belongs to me." Each word was carefully enunciated. Controlled rage barely contained beneath a veneer of civility. My heart began to pound. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I just have my luggage. Open it, now. I'm in a car. I can't. Open it." The explosion of volume made me flinch. "Or I'll have my driver pull over and do it for you." My hands shook as I turned to look at the driver. He was watching me in the rearview mirror, his expression unreadable behind dark sunglasses. "You're not from the magazine," I whispered. "The magazine sent a different car. You got in the wrong one." The man on the phone sounded almost amused now. "And you took the wrong suitcase. So open it and tell me where my property is." Terror flooded through me. I'd gotten in the wrong car. How was that possible? The text message, the space number, the timing, it had all seemed right. "I need to call the police," I said, reaching for the door handle. "The doors are locked." "Miss Chen, and calling the police would be unwise. You're in possession of stolen property. That makes you an accomplice." A pause. "Open the suitcase." With trembling hands, I leaned forward and asked the driver to pull over. He did, on a quiet street lined with shuttered shops. He retrieved my red suitcase from the trunk and placed it on the back seat beside me. I stared at it, my bright red case with my luggage tag clearly visible. But now that I looked closer, I noticed small differences. A scuff mark I didn't remember, a slightly different shade of red, the handle positioned differently. "Oh God," I breathed. "This isn't my suitcase. No, it's not. Now open it." My fingers fumbled with the combination lock. What was the code? I tried my usual, my birthday, and the lock clicked open with damning ease. That wasn't my code. I unzipped the case slowly, my mind racing through possibilities. Drugs, weapons, money. What could I possibly be carrying that warranted this level of intimidation? Inside, nestled among generic black clothing, were 3 leather-bound journals and a small wooden box. Nothing obviously illegal, but the man on the phone clearly wanted them desperately. "Describe what you see," he commanded. "Journals, a box, clothes. Take a photo of the journals. Send it to this number." I did as instructed, my hands shaking so badly the first few photos were blurry. Finally, I captured clear images of the leather covers, each embossed with gold lettering in what looked like Italian. Good. Now the box. It's locked. I know. Just photograph it. The wooden box was beautifully crafted, dark wood inlaid with mother of pearl. Small, about the size of a jewelry box with an intricate brass lock. I photographed it from multiple angles and sent them. Silence stretched on the other end. I could hear him breathing, controlled and measured, while my own breath came in short, panicked gasps. "Where is your suitcase?" he asked finally. "I don't know. Someone else must have taken it by mistake. We must have grabbed each other's bags at the carousel." "What was in yours?" "Clothes, toiletries, camera equipment." I stopped. My backup camera was in that suitcase, along with my lenses and accessories. Thousands of dollars of equipment I couldn't afford to lose. "Oh no, please. I need my camera gear for work." "You should have been more careful." No sympathy in his voice. "Do you understand the position you're in, Miss Chen? You have something very valuable that belongs to very dangerous people, and they will do anything to get it back. I'll give it to you. I don't want it, I just want my suitcase and to do my job. It's not that simple. The fact that you have these items makes you a target. My competitors will assume you're working with me. They'll come for you." "What?" No, this is just a mistake. Mistakes have consequences. He paused. Stay in the car. My driver will bring you somewhere safe while we sort this out. Safe? You kidnapped me! I prevented you from being kidnapped by people far less reasonable than myself. His tone suggested I should be grateful. Now I'm going to find your suitcase and verify you are who you claim to be. In the meantime, you'll be my guest. I have a hotel reservation, a job. Both will have to wait, unless you'd prefer to take your chances with the Russians who are also looking for those journals. Russians. Dangerous people. Competitors. The words swam in my head, each one worse than the last. This couldn't be happening. I was a photographer from Queens, not someone who got involved in international crime. I'll call the police. I tried again, desperation making my voice crack. And tell them what? That you entered France in possession of stolen property? That you willingly got into a stranger's car? He sighed. Miss Chen, I'm offering you protection. Take it. Because the alternative is much worse. The call ended. I stared at my phone, then at the driver, who'd remained motionless throughout the entire conversation. Who was that? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Marco Valentini. The driver's English was better than his boss's, barely accented, and you should do exactly what he says if you want to live through this week. The name meant nothing to me, but the way he said it suggested it should. I clutched my camera bag to my chest, the only possession I had left that was actually mine, and tried not to cry as the car pulled back into traffic. We drove for what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes, leaving the city center for quieter arrondissements with tree-lined streets and elegant buildings. Finally, we stopped before a limestone mansion that looked like it belonged in a period film. The driver opened my door. This way, please. I had no choice but to follow, dragging the wrong suitcase behind me like evidence of my catastrophic mistake. The mansion's interior was stunning. All marble floors and crystal chandeliers, more museum than home. A woman appeared, older, with steel-gray hair pulled back in a severe bun. She assessed me with sharp eyes that missed nothing. American? She asked in English. I nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Come, you'll wait in the guest suite. Mr. Valentini will arrive this afternoon. She turned, clearly expecting me to follow. The guest suite was larger than my entire Queen's apartment. Bedroom, sitting room, bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. The wrong suitcase sat on a luggage rack, mocking me with its near-identical appearance to my own. Don't try to leave, the woman said from the doorway. There are guards for your protection. Protection. Prison. The difference felt semantic at this point. She left, locking the door from the outside with an audible click. I sank onto the bed, my mind reeling. 12 hours ago, I'd been excitedly boarding a plane for my dream assignment. Now I was locked in a French mansion, holding stolen property, with dangerous people looking for me. My phone buzzed. A text from the same number. Don't be afraid. I'm not going to hurt you, but you're mine now until this is resolved. Get comfortable. Envy, I stared at those words. You're mine now. How had my life gone so catastrophically wrong so quickly? And more importantly, how was I going to get it back? I spent the first hour pacing the guest suite like a caged animal, testing windows that wouldn't open and a door that remained stubbornly locked. My phone showed no signal, which seemed impossible in the middle of Paris until I realized they were probably jamming it somehow. The magazine would be wondering where I was. My mother would call when I didn't check in, but I had no way to contact anyone, trapped in luxury that felt increasingly like a velvet prison. Around noon, the gray-haired woman returned with a tray of food. Croissants, fruit, cheese, coffee that smelled divine despite my situation. Eat, she commanded, setting the tray on a small table by the window. Mr. Valentini doesn't like his guests to go hungry. I'm not a guest, I'm a prisoner. Her expression didn't change. Perhaps. But a well-fed prisoner is a cooperative one. She moved toward the door, then paused. He truly means you no harm, the American girl. He's protecting you from people who would torture you for what's in that suitcase. What's in it? What are those journals? Not my place to say. Eat. Rest. He'll be here soon. She left, the lock clicking again. I approached the tray despite myself. The croissants were still warm, flaking at the lightest touch. The coffee was perfect, rich and strong. I ate mechanically, my mind spinning through escape scenarios that all ended with me lost in a foreign city with no money, no passport, and dangerous people hunting me. My real suitcase was out there somewhere, probably with someone equally confused about finding camera equipment instead of whatever they'd packed. Were they also being held somewhere, or had they simply discarded my belongings when they realized the mistake? The thought of losing my cameras, my equipment, everything I'd worked so hard for, made tears burn behind my eyes. But I refused to cry. Crying wouldn't help. I needed to think, to plan, to find a way out of this nightmare. Around 3 p.m, I heard voices in the hallway. Male, speaking rapid Italian that I couldn't follow. Then the lock turned, and the door swung open. The man who entered stole my breath. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled out his black dress shirt perfectly. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved by Michelangelo, all strong lines and sharp angles. Olive skin, full lips, and a strong jaw shadowed with stubble. But it was his eyes that trapped me. Dark brown, almost black, intense and intelligent, assessing me with a gaze that felt physical. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and covered in intricate tattoos. More ink peeked from beneath his collar, suggesting a canvas that extended across his chest and back. He looked dangerous. He looked powerful. And he looked absolutely furious. Olivia Chen. My name in his accented voice sounded exotic, the syllables given weight they'd never had before. Age 25, photographer from Queens, New York. No criminal record. No international travel history until today. Parents divorced when you were 8. Father deceased. Mother works as a dental hygienist in Astoria. He'd researched me, thoroughly, in just a few hours. Who are you? I managed, my voice smaller than I wanted. Marco Valentini. He moved further into the room, closing the door behind him. I believe we spoke on the phone. You kidnapped me. I prevented your kidnapping by others. There's a difference. He moved to the window, looking out over the gardens below. Tell me exactly what happened at the airport. Every detail. I recounted the morning, the rushed boarding, the baggage claim, the text message about the car. He listened without interruption, his expression unreadable. You saw your luggage tag, he said when I finished, but didn't verify the lock code before you left? I was tired, rushed. The bag looked exactly like mine. Careless. He turned to face me fully. That carelessness put you in possession of documents worth killing for. Multiple parties want what's in that suitcase, Olivia. They won't care that you took it by accident. Then I'll give it back. I don't want any part of this. Too late. The moment you walked out of that airport with those journals, you became involved. He pulled out his phone, showing me a photo. Recognize him? A man with pale skin and ice blue eyes stared from the screen. Something about his expression made my skin crawl. No. Dmitry Petrov, Russian mob, specializes in information brokerage and wet work. He swiped to another photo, this one of a sleek woman with sharp features. Isabelle Moreau, French intelligence, though she freelances for whoever pays well. Both were at Charles de Gaulle this morning. Both were looking for those journals. How do you know? Because I have people everywhere, and I was looking for them too. He pocketed his phone. Someone stole those journals from me 2 days ago. I tracked them to New York, then to your flight. What I didn't anticipate was an innocent photographer accidentally walking away with them. So, this is your fault, I said, anger cutting through fear. If you'd kept better track of your stolen property, careful. His voice dropped to a register that made every hair on my body stand up. I'm protecting you, yes, but that doesn't make us friends. Those journals contain information about my business operations, contacts, accounts. In the wrong hands, they could destroy everything I've built. What kind of business operations? His smile was razor thin, the kind that involve ensuring I get what I want, when I want it. By whatever means necessary. Criminal operations. I was standing in the presence of a criminal, probably a dangerous one based on the tattoos and the casual way he discussed people being killed. I want to go home, I whispered. That's not possible. Not yet. He moved closer and I fought the urge to retreat. Petrov knows your name by now. He'll have people watching your mother in Queens, your friends, your apartment. If you go back, he'll grab you and extract information you don't even have. My mother. The thought of dangerous men near her made my stomach clench. You have to protect her. Already done. I have a team watching her building, her workplace, everywhere she goes. He was close enough now that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and woody. She's safe as long as you cooperate with me. Cooperate how? Stay here. Let me find the person who has your suitcase and recover it. Once I do, I'll verify your story is true, that you're just an unlucky photographer who made a mistake. Then I'll arrange for you to disappear safely. Disappear? New identity, new city, new life. It's the only way to ensure Petrov and the others don't keep hunting you. He studied my face. Unless you'd prefer to take your chances going home, waiting for them to come? I sank onto the bed, overwhelmed. This can't be happening. I just wanted to take photos in Paris. Something shifted in his expression, a flash of what might have been sympathy. I know. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time, made one mistake, and now your entire life is upended. It's unfair, but fair and unfair are irrelevant now. Only survival matters. For how long? How long do I have to hide here? A few days. Maybe a week. He pulled out his phone again. I found the woman who has your suitcase. Claire Dubois, French citizen, graphic designer. She noticed the mistake and posted about it on social media, looking for the owner. Very helpful of her. Hope surged through me. Then you can get my stuff back. It's not that simple. Claire opened your suitcase, saw the camera equipment, and assumed it was valuable. She took it to her apartment in the Marais. Petrov's people are watching that building now, waiting to see if you show up. So it's a trap. Yes, which means we need to be very careful about how we retrieve it. He sat in the chair across from me, his long legs stretched out. Tell me about the cameras, everything that's in that case. I described my equipment in detail, the makes and models, the serial numbers I'd memorized. He took notes on his phone, his focus absolute. This is important to you, he observed. These cameras, they're everything. I saved for 3 years to afford that gear. It's how I make my living, how I pursue my passion. Emotion choked my voice. Without them, I'm just another person with dreams and no way to achieve them. He studied me for a long moment. I'll get them back. That's my promise. Why? Why do you care about my cameras? Because they're yours, and you're under my protection now. He stood, moving back toward the door. There are clothes in the closet that should fit you. Toiletries in the bathroom. Anything you need, ask Maria, the woman you met. She'll provide it. I need my phone to work. I need to call my mother. The magazine. Your mother believes you arrived safely and are settling into your hotel. I had someone send a text from your phone before we blocked the signal. He paused at the door. As for the magazine, I'll handle it. You had a family emergency, had to postpone the assignment. They'll understand. You can't just take over my life. I already have. He opened the door. Rest, Olivia. You'll need your strength for what comes next. What comes next? Tomorrow we retrieve your cameras. And you're going to help me do it. That dangerous smile returned. Try to sleep. I'll see you at dinner. He left before I could protest, the lock clicking with finality. I sat in stunned silence, processing everything he'd said. Marco Valentini was a criminal with enough resources to research my entire life in hours, block phone signals, post fake social media updates, and arrange protection for my mother across an ocean. He spoke of killing and disappearing people like others discussed the weather, and he just appointed himself my protector, whether I wanted it or not. I explored the closet, finding expensive clothes in my exact size. Designer labels I recognized from magazines, fabrics that felt like silk and butter. In the bathroom, luxury products lined the counters. Everything I might need already provided. He'd prepared for me specifically, which meant he'd known I'd end up here even before we spoke on the phone. Known that the girl who took his suitcase would need clothes, toiletries, a place to stay. The level of control was terrifying. I showered in that massive tub, letting hot water wash away airport grime and some of the tension knotted in my shoulders. But it couldn't wash away the reality of my situation. I was trapped in France, dependent on a dangerous criminal, with my entire life suspended while he sorted out his problems. Problems I'd accidentally become part of. Maria brought dinner at 7. Coq au vin that smelled amazing, fresh bread, Wine I was afraid to drink in case it made me less alert. She set everything on the small table, then surprised me by sitting down. Mr. Valentini wants you to know he means what he says. Her English was careful, precise. About protecting you. He doesn't make false promises. How long have you worked for him? 20 years. Since he was just a boy taking over his father's business. She poured wine for both of us despite my hesitation. He can be ruthless when necessary, but he's also honorable in his way. If he says you're safe here, you're safe. What kind of business does he really do? Maria smiled sadly. The kind that keeps men like Petrov away from innocent people. The kind that operates in shadows so the world can pretend such darkness doesn't exist. She stood. Eat. You'll need strength tomorrow. After she left, I picked at the food despite its excellence. My mind kept circling back to Marco's words. You're mine now. Not under my protection, not my responsibility. Mine. Like I was a possession he'd acquired. Another asset to manage alongside his criminal empire. The thought should have terrified me more than it did. Instead, I felt something complicated I didn't want to examine, because part of me, the part that noticed his dark eyes and strong hands and the way he moved with predatory grace, that part responded to his claim with something that wasn't entirely fear. I hated myself for it. Night fell over Paris, the city lights visible through my window. Somewhere out there, people lived normal lives. Tourists taking photos of the Eiffel Tower, couples dining in cafes. Photographers like me should have been capturing it all. Instead, I was here, locked in luxury, waiting for morning when I'd apparently help a criminal recover my stolen cameras. My phone, still signalless, showed the time. 11:47 p.m. In New York, my mother would be finishing her evening shift, heading home to our apartment, completely unaware that dangerous men might be watching her because of my mistake. I tried the door again, knowing it was futile. Still locked, still trapped. The only question now was whether Marco Valentini was my salvation or just another form of danger, wearing a more attractive face. Morning arrived with weak sunlight filtering through heavy curtains. I'd barely slept, jolting awake at every sound in the unfamiliar mansion. When Maria knocked at 7, I was already dressed in the clothes from the closet. Dark jeans and a black sweater that fit perfectly. Mr. Valentini requests your presence for breakfast, she announced, unlocking the door. I followed her through marble corridors to a sun-filled dining room overlooking manicured gardens. Marco sat at the head of a long table, reading something on his phone, a cup of espresso at his elbow. He'd changed into fresh clothes, black jeans, and a charcoal Henley that showcased those tattooed forearms. Sit. He gestured to the chair beside him without looking up. I obeyed, feeling like a summoned employee rather than a guest. Maria materialized with coffee and a plate of pastries I had no appetite for. We leave in 30 minutes, Marco said, finally setting down his phone. Claire Dubois works from home on Thursdays. She'll be in her apartment, which complicates extraction but also provides opportunity. Extraction? You make it sound military. All operations require planning and precision. This is no different. He turned those dark eyes on me. Here's what will happen. We'll approach the building as a couple. You'll be carrying flowers. I'll have my arm around you. To any watchers, we're visiting a friend. And Petrov's people? We'll be watching the main entrance. We're using a service entrance in the rear that connects to Claire's building through a shared courtyard. He pulled up photos on his phone. Study this layout. You need to know every exit. I looked at the blueprints, my mind struggling to process that this was real, that I was planning a retrieval operation with a criminal in Paris instead of photographing the Louvre. Once inside, we go directly to Claire's apartment. You'll knock, explain about the switched bags, retrieve your equipment. Simple. What if she refuses? What if Petrov's people see us anyway? Then I handle it. The casual way he said it made my blood run cold. Your job is to stay calm, act natural, and follow my lead. Can you do that? I don't have a choice, do I? There's always a choice, Olivia. But some choices have better outcomes than others. He stood. Finish your coffee. We leave soon. 20 minutes later, I sat in the back of a Mercedes with Marco beside me, his driver navigating Paris traffic with practiced efficiency. Marco had changed again. now wearing an expensive leather jacket over his Henley, looking every inch the wealthy boyfriend taking his girlfriend to visit a friend. Put these on. He handed me sunglasses and a scarf. Keep your face partially covered. Petrov has your passport photo by now. I wrapped the scarf around my neck and lower face, the silk soft against my skin. Marco produced a bouquet of flowers from somewhere, pressing them into my hands. Remember, we're a couple. That means I'll touch you, hold you close. Don't flinch. I won't. His arm slid around my shoulders, pulling me against his side. The contact was electric, his body warm and solid, the scent of his cologne overwhelming my senses. I tried to relax, to lean into him naturally, but every muscle screamed with tension. Better, he murmured against my hair. But you need to actually relax. You look terrified. I am terrified. Then channel it into excitement. We're visiting a friend, remember? You're happy to be here. His hand squeezed my shoulder. Smile. I forced my lips to curve, though it felt grotesque. We were approaching the Marais now, narrow streets lined with boutiques and cafes. The driver circled the block twice before pulling into an alley behind a cluster of buildings. This is it, Marco said quietly. From now on, everything is performance. Don't break character. We exited the car, his arm immediately returning to my shoulders. He guided me through a gate into a courtyard filled with bicycles and potted plants. To anyone watching from windows above, we looked like exactly what we were pretending to be. The service entrance required a code, which Marco entered without hesitation. Inside, the building was older, with narrow stairs and walls that needed fresh paint. We climbed to the third floor, our footsteps echoing in the stairwell. Apartment 3B. Marco positioned me in front of the door, standing slightly behind me, one hand resting on my waist. To any observer, he was simply a boyfriend waiting while his girlfriend knocked. I raised my hand and rapped 3 times. Footsteps approached from inside. A chain rattled. The door opened to reveal a petite woman in her 30s, blonde hair in a messy bun, paint-stained clothes suggesting she'd been working. We? She looked confused, switching to accented English when she saw me. Can I help you? Claire Dubois. I'm Olivia Chen. I think we accidentally switched suitcases at the airport yesterday. I held up the flowers like an offering. I have yours, and I was hoping to get mine back. Recognition dawned on her face. Oh, the red suitcase. Yes, I posted about it online, but... She paused, her eyes moving past me to Marco. Something in her expression changed, wariness replacing friendliness. Who is he? My boyfriend, I said quickly, praying she'd believe it. Marco, he's helping me sort out the mix-up. Enchanté, Marco said smoothly, his French impeccable. He launched into rapid explanation I couldn't follow, something that made Claire's posture relax slightly. She responded in French, then switched back to English for my benefit. I'm sorry, I've been cautious. There were strange men outside earlier, watching the building. It made me nervous about the suitcase. Strange men. I injected concern into my voice. What did they look like? Tall, pale, very serious. One had a scar here. She traced a line down her cheek. They asked the cafe owner across the street about recent visitors. Petrov's people. Marco's hand tightened on my waist, a warning to stay calm. That's unsettling, I said. Maybe we should call the police? Perhaps. Claire stepped back. But first, let me get your suitcase. It's been taking up space in my studio. We followed her inside, Marco's presence commanding despite his silence. The apartment was small but charming, filled with art supplies and half-finished canvases. My red suitcase, the real one, sat against the far wall. I opened it. I'm sorry, Claire said, looking embarrassed. I thought it was mine. And then I saw the cameras. Very expensive equipment. I was going to take it to Lost and Found. But then I thought the owner would want it returned directly. You did the right thing, I assured her, moving toward the case. Thank you for being honest. Marco was already examining the locks, verifying nothing had been tampered with. He nodded once, satisfied, then turned to Claire. We should exchange bags and go, he said in English. Those men you saw, they might return. Should I be worried? Real fear entered Claire's voice. No, Marco said with absolute confidence. They're looking for someone else, not you. But it's better if we're not here when they come back. We made the exchange quickly, Marco carrying Claire's suitcase while I wheeled mine. He pressed a business card into Claire's hand. If anyone asks about the American girl, you never saw her. Understood? Claire nodded, clutching the card. We left, retracing our steps through the building and into the courtyard. I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on us, watching from windows or shadowed doorways. Walk normally, Marco murmured. Don't look around. We emerged into the alley where the Mercedes waited. The driver had the trunk open before we reached the car. Marco loaded both suitcases with efficient movements, then ushered me into the back seat. Go, he told the driver. Alternate route back. As we pulled away, I caught a glimpse of two men entering the courtyard we'd just left. Tall, pale, one with a scar down his cheek, exactly as Claire had described. They're there, I whispered. I know. We're ahead of them by 3 minutes. Marco was typing rapidly on his phone. My team is watching Claire's building. If they approach her, we'll know. What will you do? Ensure she doesn't mention us. His tone suggested methods I didn't want to examine. We drove in tense silence for 10 minutes before Marco's phone buzzed. He read the message, then relaxed fractionally. They questioned her. She said she found the suitcase abandoned in the courtyard this morning. No idea who left it. He pocketed the phone. She's smart, that one. You told her to lie. I gave her an option. She chose the safest one. He turned to me. Open your suitcase. Verify everything's there. I did, unzipping it with trembling hands. My cameras sat nestled in their protective cases, exactly as I'd packed them. Lenses, batteries, memory cards, all present. Relief flooded through me so intensely I felt dizzy. It's all here. I breathed. Everything. Good. Marco reached over, his fingers brushing mine as he examined one of the cameras. This is the one you saved 3 years for? How did you— I researched you, remember? You worked 3 jobs, lived on ramen, skipped meals to afford this equipment. His dark eyes met mine. That's dedication, passion. I respect that. The moment felt oddly intimate, his hand still touching mine, his attention focused entirely on me. I should pull away, should remember he was dangerous, but I found myself frozen. Thank you, I said quietly, forgetting them back. I keep my promises. He withdrew his hand. Now we deal with the journals. I'd almost forgotten about them in my relief over recovering my cameras. What's in them that's so valuable? Information. Names, accounts, operations spanning 5 countries. He pulled out his phone again. My entire business recorded in detail by someone I trusted. When they were stolen, I knew exactly who took them and why. Who? My cousin Luca. He thought he could sell my secrets to the highest bidder, establish himself as a power in his own right. Marco's expression hardened. He was wrong. What happened to him? He's currently in a warehouse explaining exactly who he sold copies to and where those copies are. His tone was casual, but the implication was clear. When I'm finished with this conversation, I'll go conclude that discussion. Torture. He was going to torture his own cousin for information. The realization made my stomach turn. You can't— I can, and I will. Luca put my entire organization at risk. Endangered people I'm responsible for. That requires consequences. He turned those dark eyes on me. Does that frighten you? Knowing what I'm capable of? Yes, I admitted. Good. Fear keeps you cautious. Caution keeps you alive. He leaned closer. But understand this. I would never hurt you, Olivia. You're under my protection. That's sacred to me. Until I'm not useful anymore. Even then. His hand came up, cupping my face with surprising gentleness. I don't abandon people who trust me. Remember that. We arrived back at the mansion, the gates closing behind us with finality. Marco helped me out of the car, his hand lingering on my waist longer than necessary. Rest this afternoon, he said. Tonight we'll discuss your future. My future? You can't stay in France. Petrov knows you were here, we'll keep looking. And you can't go back to New York, not to your old life. He studied my face. You need to disappear, Olivia. I'll help you do that properly. Disappear where? We'll discuss options tonight. For now, you're safe. He turned toward the house, then paused. And Olivia? Thank you for trusting me today. I know it wasn't easy. He disappeared inside before I could respond. leaving me standing in the courtyard with my recovered suitcase and 1,000 questions I wasn't sure I wanted answered. Maria appeared to escort me back to my room. Once inside, I immediately opened my camera, checking every setting, every function. Everything worked perfectly. Claire had been honest, hadn't damaged or stolen anything. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt the weight of Marco's words settling over me. My old life was over. I couldn't go home, couldn't complete my magazine assignment, couldn't return to the simple existence I'd built in Queens. I had to disappear. The question was whether I'd be disappearing with Marco Valentini's help, or from him. The afternoon stretched endlessly. I tried to distract myself by reviewing photos on my camera, old shots from New York that felt like they belonged to someone else's life. That Olivia had been worried about rent and freelance contracts, not Russian mobsters and criminal empires. Around 4, Maria brought tea and news that made my chest tighten. Mr. Valentini called. He'll be delayed until late evening. Business matters. The way she said it suggested business that involved his cousin and a warehouse. He wants you to have dinner without him. I'll bring it at 7, more waiting. More time alone with my thoughts spiraling into worst-case scenarios. I spent an hour examining the journals from the switched suitcase, though I couldn't read the Italian. The handwriting was neat, precise, filling page after page with what looked like dates, names, and numbers. Someone's meticulous record-keeping that had nearly gotten me killed. My phone, still blocked, showed messages I couldn't send. 3 from my mother asking about Paris, 2 from the magazine coordinator wanting to discuss the assignment, 1 from my best friend Jen checking if I'd landed safely. All of them living in a reality where I was simply on a work trip, not trapped in a French mansion with stolen journals and a dangerous man who'd claimed ownership of my immediate future. Dinner arrived as promised, but I barely touched it. By 10 o'clock, exhaustion was pulling at me despite my anxiety. I changed into pajamas Maria had provided, silk that felt too expensive for sleep, and tried to rest. I must have dozed off, because I woke to the sound of my door opening. Marco stood silhouetted in the doorway, his white shirt spattered with what looked like dark stains. Blood, I realized with horror. Get up, he said quietly. We need to talk. I sat up, pulling the blanket around me. What happened? Nothing you need to worry about. He moved to the window, staring out at the dark gardens. Luca confirmed there are 3 copies of the journals in circulation. 1 you have, 1 went to Petrov, 1 to Isabelle Moreau, the French intelligence woman. Yes, which means this situation is more complicated than I anticipated. He turned to face me, and in the moonlight I could see exhaustion lining his features. I need to recover those copies before they're used against me. That will take time. How much time? A week, maybe 2. He crossed his arms. Which means you can't leave yet. It's not safe. So I'm still a prisoner. You're still under my protection. He moved closer, sitting on the edge of my bed. I know this isn't what you want, Olivia, but it's necessary. The intimacy of the moment struck me suddenly. He was in my bedroom, in the middle of the night, sitting on my bed with blood on his clothes, and somehow it felt less threatening than it should have. What will happen to your cousin? I asked. He'll live. Barely. And he'll never betray me again. Marco's expression was unreadable. Family loyalty is complicated. Sometimes it requires harsh lessons. You tortured him. I extracted information necessary for survival. Mine and yours. He looked down at his stained shirt. This bothers you. Of course it bothers me. You hurt someone who would have gotten you killed if Petrov had found you first. Luca knew the journals were being transported, knew someone might take the wrong bag, and said nothing. He was willing to let an innocent person die to protect his theft. Marco's voice hardened. So yes, I heard him, and I'd do it again to keep you safe. The possessiveness in his tone made my breath catch. Why do you care so much? I'm just a photographer who made a mistake. You're not just anything. He reached out, his hand hovering near my face before he seemed to think better of it, and withdrew. You're someone who saved 3 years for a camera, who works 3 jobs to support your mother, who came to Paris chasing a dream despite being terrified of flying. His eyes held mine. You're strong and determined and completely out of your depth, and for some reason that makes me want to protect you more than I've wanted to protect anyone in years. My heart hammered against my ribs. Marco, I know it's wrong. You're in this situation because of me, my business, my failures. I should be helping you disappear and never seeing you again. He stood abruptly. But I don't want to. And that's a problem. He moved toward the door, but I found myself speaking before he could leave. Wait. He paused, his back to me. The blood on your shirt. You should change it. Clean up. I didn't know why I was saying this, why I cared. You can't walk around like that. He turned slowly, something intense and searching in his gaze. You're worried about me. I'm worried about Maria seeing you covered in blood and having a heart attack. I lied. That dangerous smile curved his lips. My room is through there. He gestured to a door I hadn't noticed, partially hidden by curtains. We're connected. I wanted you close where I could protect you. Of course we were connected. Of course he'd arranged it so he could reach me in seconds if needed. The level of control should have terrified me, but instead I felt something warmer, more complicated. Go, I said. Get cleaned up. Then we can talk about what happens next. He studied me for a moment longer, then disappeared through the connecting door. I heard water running, the sounds of him moving around his room. When he returned 10 minutes later, he'd changed into black sweatpants and a fresh t-shirt, his wet hair pushed back from his face. Better? He asked. Much. I patted the bed beside me, then immediately regretted the gesture when his eyebrows rose. To talk, just to talk. He sat, maintaining careful distance. What did you want to discuss? My options. You said I need to disappear. What does that actually mean? New identity, new location, new profession. I have contacts who specialize in this. They can create a complete background that would fool any investigation. He pulled out his phone, showing me documents. You'd become someone else entirely. I looked at the sample identity on screen. Sarah Mitchell, born in Portland, graphic designer. Completely fabricated history that looked entirely real. I'd lose everything. My name, my career, my mother. Your mother would know you're safe. I'd arrange secure communication, but yes, you'd lose your public identity. His expression softened. It's the only way to guarantee Petrov and the others stop looking. What if I don't want to disappear? What if I want to fight? Fight how? You're a photographer, Olivia, not a soldier. Then teach me. The words came out before I could stop them. You said it yourself. I'm strong and determined. Teach me how to survive in your world instead of running from it. He stared at me like I'd suggested something insane. You have no idea what you're asking. Maybe not. But I know I'm tired of being helpless. Tired of being protected like I'm fragile. I met his eyes. I made it through today, didn't I? Kept calm, played my part, got my cameras back. I can learn more. And if learning more puts you in greater danger, then at least it's my choice. Not something happening to me, but something I'm actively deciding. I leaned forward. I'm already involved, Marco. I have your journals. I've seen your world. I know things that make me a target. Pretending I can disappear and forget all this is naive. He was silent for a long moment, conflict playing across his features. If I agree to this, there are rules. You do exactly as I say when I say it. No arguments, no hesitation. I can do that. And you accept that what I do, who I am, involves darkness most people never see. Things that will change you. I'm already changed. The moment I picked up that suitcase, I changed. I held his gaze. At least let me have some control over what I become next. Something shifted in his expression. Admiration mixed with concern. You're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both. He laughed, the sound surprising and warm. All right, I'll teach you, but we start small. Basic security awareness, self-defense, how to read situations before they become dangerous. When do we start? Tomorrow. Tonight you need rest. He stood. And Olivia? This changes things between us. If you're choosing to stay in my world, even temporarily, you need to understand the implications. What implications? That you're not just under my protection anymore. You're becoming part of my operation. That makes you valuable, which makes you a target, which means I'll be even more invested in keeping you safe. He moved toward the connecting door. It also means spending more time together. Close quarters. Dangerous situations. That can create complications. I understood what he wasn't saying. The attraction that crackled between us, that I'd been trying to ignore, would only intensify if we were working together. I can handle complications, I said, more confidently than I felt. We'll see. He paused in the doorway. Sleep well, Olivia. Training starts at 6. After he left, I lay in the darkness, my mind spinning. I'd just volunteered to learn from a criminal, to dive deeper into a world I'd stumbled into by accident. It was possibly the stupidest decision I'd ever made, but it was mine, and that made all the difference. I woke to pounding on my door at precisely 5:45 a.m. Marco's voice called through. Gym clothes are in the closet, downstairs in 10 minutes. I dressed in the athletic wear I found, expensive brands that fit perfectly. Of course they did. He'd known I'd agree even before I said yes. The gym in the mansion's lower level was state-of-the-art, all gleaming equipment and mirrored walls. Marco was already there, wearing training clothes that showcased his powerful build. The tattoos I'd glimpsed before were fully visible now, intricate designs covering both arms and disappearing under his shirt collar. Stretching first, he said, demonstrating movements I copied awkwardly. Flexibility is crucial for self-defense. We worked through stretches for 20 minutes, Marco correcting my form with hands that were firm but not inappropriate. Then came basics, stance, balance, how to move efficiently. You're too tense, he observed, circling me. Tension makes you slow. Breathe. I tried to relax. But having him this close, watching my every movement with those intense dark eyes, made relaxation impossible. Let's try something, he said, moving behind me. His hands settled on my shoulders. Close your eyes. Focus on your breathing, not my presence. With his hands warming my skin through the thin fabric of my shirt, not focusing on his presence was impossible, but I tried, breathing deeply, letting my muscles relax incrementally. Better, he murmured. Now, I'm going to grab you, and you're going to break free. Ready? Before I could answer, his arms snaked around my waist from behind, pulling me against him. Solid muscle, overwhelming presence, the scent of his cologne mixed with clean sweat. What do you do? He asked against my ear. My mind went blank. Every self-defense tip I'd ever heard evaporated under the physical reality of being held by him. Olivia, focus. What do you do? I don't know, I admitted. Then I'll teach you. He guided my hand to his forearm. Grab here, pull down while stepping forward. Use my momentum against me. We practiced the movement slowly, his patient instruction walking me through each step. By the time we'd repeated it 20 times, I could execute the break smoothly. Good, he said, sounding pleased. Again, but faster. We drilled for 2 hours, Marco teaching me basic escapes, strikes, and awareness techniques. He was a demanding instructor, but never cruel, pushing me to my limits without exceeding them. Finally, drenched in sweat and trembling with exhaustion, I collapsed on a mat. That's enough for today, he said, tossing me a water bottle. Same time tomorrow. You're serious about this. I'm always serious about survival. He sat beside me, barely winded despite matching my exertion. You did well, better than I expected for a first session. High praise from someone who tortured his cousin yesterday, I said without thinking. His expression went cold. Careful, Olivia. I'm teaching you because you asked. That doesn't give you permission to judge me. I'm sorry. That was true? Yes. But truth without context is just cruelty. He stood. Shower, then breakfast. We have a meeting at 10 you'll attend. What kind of meeting? The kind where you'll see exactly what my world looks like. Consider it part of your education. He left before I could ask more questions, leaving me alone with my aching muscles and growing sense that I'd made a deal with consequences I couldn't yet comprehend. The meeting took place in a private room at a restaurant so exclusive it didn't have a sign. Marco had sent up clothes for me to wear, tailored black trousers, a silk blouse in deep burgundy, and heels that added 3 inches to my height. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked sophisticated, dangerous even, nothing like the photographer from Queens. Marco was waiting in the foyer, wearing a perfectly cut charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders. His dark hair was slicked back, revealing the sharp angles of his face. He looked every inch the powerful businessman, except for the tattoos peeking from beneath his collar and the cold calculation in his eyes. "You look appropriate," he said, his gaze traveling over me with assessment rather than appreciation. "Remember, you're my associate. You observe, you listen. You say nothing unless I indicate otherwise. Understood?" "Yes. These men are dangerous, Olivia. They've killed for less than a perceived insult. Watch your body language, your expressions. Give nothing away." The restaurant's private room held 4 men already seated around a polished table. I recognized the type instantly. Expensive suits barely concealing violence, eyes that assessed threats automatically, hands that had definitely held weapons. Marco's hand settled on the small of my back as he guided me inside. "Gentlemen, thank you for meeting on short notice." He spoke in English, though I caught Italian accents in the murmured greetings. "This is Olivia, my new consultant. She'll be observing. Consultant. A nice word for whatever role I was actually playing." We sat, Marco positioning me beside him. A waiter appeared with drinks I didn't touch. The conversation began in English, discussing legitimate business, shipments, and distribution channels and market territories. All perfectly legal on the surface. Then one of the men, gray-haired with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, switched to Italian. "What about the Petrov situation? He's been making noise about the journals," Marco responded in Italian, his tone casual. I caught enough words to understand he was downplaying the threat, assuring them it was handled. Another man, younger with cold blue eyes, interjected. "And the girl who had them? She's been dealt with?" My blood turned to ice. They were talking about me, not realizing I sat right here. "The situation is resolved," Marco said smoothly. "She's no longer a concern." "You're certain?" "Petrov has resources." I said it's handled. The steel beneath Marco's pleasant tone silenced the room. Now, regarding our expansion into Prague, the meeting continued for another hour, switching between languages, discussing matters that ranged from mundane to clearly criminal. I sat silent, watching, learning how Marco commanded respect through presence alone. He never raised his voice, never made overt threats. Yet everyone in that room deferred to him absolutely. Finally, the meeting concluded. Handshakes exchanged, promises made. As we left, I felt their eyes following me, calculating, wondering who I really was to Marco Valentini. In the car, Marco's hand found mine. "You did well. Not a single reaction when they discussed you. They think I'm dead. They think you're no longer a threat. Let them believe what they want." He squeezed my hand. "What did you learn?" "That you're scarier than I realized. The way they looked at you," I shook my head. "They're afraid of you. Fear and respect are intertwined in my world. You can't have one without the other." He released my hand. "Did you understand the Italian?" "Some. Enough to know you're expanding operations and Petrov is becoming more aggressive." "Your Italian is better than you admitted." His eyes narrowed. "What else are you hiding, Olivia Chen?" "My father was Italian-American. I grew up hearing it, learned more in college. I never said I didn't speak it. You never asked." I met his gaze. "Is that a problem?" "No, it's useful." A smile played at his lips. "You continue to surprise me." Back at the mansion, I changed into comfortable clothes, my mind replaying the meeting. Those men had casually discussed eliminating threats, moving illegal goods, corrupting officials. And I'd sat there, silent and complicit, learning the language of criminality. What was I becoming? Maria brought lunch to my room along with news. "Mr. Valentini has business this afternoon. He wants you to rest, practice what you learned this morning. Training resumes tomorrow at 6, more waiting, more time alone with my thoughts." I pulled out my camera, needing to do something familiar, something that connected me to who I'd been before. Through the window, the gardens offered beautiful light, shadows and angles that begged to be captured. But I couldn't go outside, couldn't even open the window without setting off security alarms. Instead, I photographed my room. The luxury that imprisoned me. The beautiful cage with its silk sheets and designer clothes. Each photo felt like documentation of my transformation, evidence of the life I was leaving behind. Around 4, my door opened without warning. Marco stood there, his expression darker than I'd seen. We have a problem. My stomach dropped. What happened? Petrov found Claire. She's dead. The words hit like a physical blow. Claire, the graphic designer who'd been nothing but helpful, who'd returned my cameras and lied to protect us. Dead because I'd switched suitcases with the wrong person. No, I whispered. She didn't do anything. She spoke to us. That was enough. Marco moved to the window, tension radiating from his shoulders. Her building's security footage shows us entering and leaving. Petrov's people reviewed it, identified you, confirmed you're alive and working with me. So now what? Now he knows you're under my protection, which means attacking you is attacking me. That changes the game. He turned to face me. I need you to do something. It's dangerous, but it might be our best chance to end this. What? Let yourself be seen. Draw Petrov out. When he makes his move, we'll be ready. You want to use me as bait. I want to use you as the lure that ends this threat permanently. He crossed the room, taking my shoulders. I wouldn't ask if I didn't believe you could handle it. And I'll be there watching, ready to intervene the moment things turn dangerous. What if something goes wrong? What if he grabs me before you can stop him? That won't happen. I won't let it happen. His grip tightened. But I need you to trust me completely. Can you do that? I thought of Claire, dead because she helped me. Thought of my mother, being watched in New York. Thought of the life I couldn't return to until this ended. Yes, I said. I trust you. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise and something warmer. Then we move tomorrow night. There's a gallery opening in the Marais, high profile, lots of security, perfect venue. You'll attend as my companion. We'll make sure Petrov knows you're there, and we'll end this. Just like that? Just like that. He released me, stepping back. Rest tonight. Tomorrow we finish what that switch suitcase started. After he left, I stood at the window, watching darkness fall over Paris. Claire was dead because of me, because I'd been careless at an airport, grabbed the wrong bag, and set off a chain of events that ended in murder. I couldn't undo that. Couldn't bring her back, but I could make sure her death meant something, that Petrov paid for what he'd done, even if it meant putting myself in danger, even if it meant becoming more like Marco than I'd ever intended. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Claire's face, imagined her final moments. Around midnight, I gave up and slipped through the connecting door to Marco's room. He was awake, sitting at a desk with his laptop, working despite the late hour. He looked up as I entered, surprise flickering across his features. Olivia, what's wrong? I can't stop thinking about Claire, about how this is my fault. It's not. It is. If I'd been more careful, paid attention, verified the bag before leaving, my voice cracked, she'd still be alive. Marco stood, crossing to me. Petrov killed her, not you. He made that choice. Because of me. Because he's a monster who eliminates anyone in his path. His hands cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. You're not responsible for his actions. Don't carry guilt that doesn't belong to you. How do you do it? Live with the weight of all the violence, all the deaths? By remembering why I do what I do. Every person I protect, every life I save by eliminating threats. That balances the scale. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. You want to balance yours? Help me tomorrow. And Petrov so he can't hurt anyone else. I'm scared. Good. Fear makes you careful. Just don't let it make you hesitate when the moment comes. He pulled me closer, and I let him, needing the comfort of human contact. I won't let him take you. I promise. We stood like that for a long moment, his arms around me, my face pressed to his chest where I could hear his heartbeat, steady and strong. It felt safe despite everything. He felt safe. Stay, he said quietly. Sleep here tonight. You shouldn't be alone. I knew I should refuse, should maintain some boundary between us, but I was tired of being alone with my fear and guilt. So I nodded, letting him guide me to his bed. He lay beside me, on top of the covers while I slipped beneath them, maintaining that thin barrier. His hand found mine in the darkness. Sleep, Olivia. Tomorrow, we end this. I woke to early light filtering through unfamiliar curtains and the warmth of Marco's body beside me. Sometime in the night, he'd moved under the covers, his arm draped across my waist, holding me close. It should have felt wrong, inappropriate. But instead, it felt like the safest I'd been since this nightmare started. "You're awake," he murmured against my hair. "How long have you been up?" "An hour, watching you sleep." His arm tightened. "Making sure you're really here, really safe." I turned to face him, finding his dark eyes already on me. "Marco, I know. This is complicated, dangerous, probably a terrible idea." His hand came up, brushing hair from my face. "But I'm done pretending I don't feel something for you. Done pretending this is just about protection. What are you saying? That when this is over, when Petrov is dealt with and you're safe, I want you to stay. Not because you have to, but because you choose to." His expression was more vulnerable than I'd seen. "Choose me, Olivia. Choose this life, terrifying and dark as it is, because I think you're already choosing it. You just haven't admitted it yet." He was right. I'd asked to learn, to fight, to become part of his world. I'd slept in his bed, trusted him with my life, crossed every boundary I'd set when this started. If I stay, what does that make me? "Mine," he said simply. "My partner, my equal, my everything. If you'll have me." I should have said no. Should have remembered Claire, the meeting, the blood on his shirt. Should have recognized that choosing Marco Valentini meant choosing darkness. But I'd been choosing it all along. Every decision, every moment of trust, every time I didn't run when I had the chance. "Ask me again after tonight," I whispered, "after we end this. If I survive, you'll survive. I'll make sure of it." He pressed his forehead to mine. "And then you'll choose me. I already know you will." His confidence should have irritated me. Instead, it felt like a promise, solid and certain in a world that had become nothing but uncertainty. "Training," I said, pulling away before I could do something stupid like kiss him. "It's almost 6. His smile was knowing. "Running from me won't change what's already happening between us." "Maybe not. But we have bigger problems to deal with first." "For now," he agreed, letting me go. "But Olivia? After tonight, I'm done waiting." The promise in his voice sent heat through me despite the danger we faced, because he was right. I was choosing him, choosing this, choosing to become someone new. The only question was whether I'd survive long enough to see who I became. The gallery opening was everything Marco promised. Elegant, crowded and dripping with enough wealth and security to make a bank vault jealous. I stood in front of a massive abstract painting, pretending to study brushstrokes while my heart hammered against my ribs. Marco stood beside me, his hand resting casually on my lower back. To anyone watching, we were simply a couple appreciating art. But his fingers pressed against my spine in a pattern he'd taught me this morning. 3 taps meant his team had eyes on Petrov's people. 2 taps meant stay alert. 1 meant move. So far, 3 taps. They were here, watching. "Breathe," Marco murmured, leaning close as if commenting on the painting. "You look terrified." "I am terrified. Channel it. Remember what I taught you." His hand slid up my back, the gesture appearing intimate but actually positioning me for quick movement if needed. "See the exit behind the sculpture? That's your route if things go wrong. You said they won't go wrong. I said I won't let him take you. There's a difference." He turned me gently to face the next painting. "He's here. Northeast corner, gray suit, blonde woman on his arm." I didn't look. Couldn't. If I saw Dmitri Petrov, the man who'd killed Claire, the man hunting me, I'd panic. 10 minutes, Marco continued. Then we moved to the courtyard. More space, better sightlines for my team. He'll make his approach there. How do you know? Because it's what I'd do. Isolated, plausible deniability, easy escape routes. His fingers tapped twice against my spine. Stay alert. When he approaches, let him talk. I need to know what he knows, what he wants. Can you do that? Yes. Look at me. I did, finding his dark eyes intense and searching. Whatever happens, I'm here. You're not alone in this. Something warm bloomed in my chest. Inappropriate given the circumstances, but undeniable. I know. We moved through the gallery, Marco's hand never leaving my back, his body always positioned between me and potential threats. Other guests smiled and nodded, clearly recognizing him, though whether from legitimate business or darker circles, I couldn't tell. The courtyard was beautiful, lit by strings of lights woven through trees, with sculptures creating shadowed alcoves perfect for private conversations or ambushes. I felt exposed and trapped simultaneously. Wine? A server appeared with a tray. Thank you. Marco took 2 glasses, pressing one into my hand. Sip it, don't drink. You need to stay sharp. The wine tasted expensive and utterly wrong for the moment. I held the glass like a prop, my other hand gripping my small clutch where Marco had hidden a panic button that would bring his entire team running. He's moving, Marco said quietly. Stay calm. Remember, I'm right here. Dmitry Petrov materialized from the shadows like a ghost, his pale skin almost luminescent under the string lights, ice blue eyes fixed on me with predatory focus, a smile playing at thin lips. Marco Valentini, he said, his accent thicker than Marco's, Russian vowels sliding through Italian courtesy. And the mysterious photographer. How delightful to finally meet properly. Petrov. Marco's voice was pleasant, his body language relaxed, but I felt the tension thrumming through him. I wasn't aware you appreciated modern art. I appreciate many things. Beautiful objects, rare acquisitions, information that shouldn't exist. His gaze slid to me. Miss Chen, I believe? Or should I say, the woman who cost me considerable time and resources. It was an accident, I managed, proud that my voice didn't shake. Yes, the airport mix-up. How unfortunate. He stepped closer, and Marco's hand tightened on my waist. But you see, accidents have consequences. You took something of mine. That creates debt. The journals belong to me, Marco said, his tone hardening. You purchased them from a thief. That doesn't make them yours. Possession is 9/10 of the law, as they say, and I possessed them until your little photographer interfered. Petrov's smile widened. Of course, I still have a copy. Very interesting reading. I'm sure your competitors would pay handsomely for such detailed information. Name your price. Marco's words were clipped, controlled. We settle this tonight. Walk away clean. I don't want money, Marco. I want respect. Recognition that I'm not some minor player you can intimidate. Petrov's eyes never left me. Give me the girl. Let me question her about what she saw in those journals. Verify she hasn't made copies or shared information. Then we're even. Every muscle in my body went rigid. Marco's hand slid from my waist to my arm, his grip iron. That's not happening, Marco said, his voice dropping to a register that made the air feel colder. Then we have a problem. Petrov gestured, and I realized we were suddenly surrounded. 3 men had materialized from the shadows, forming a loose circle. Because I'm not leaving empty-handed. Neither am I. Marco tapped my arm once. Move. Everything happened in seconds but felt like hours. Marco shoved me toward the exit he'd indicated, his body blocking Petrov's immediate lunge. I ran, heels clicking on stone, my clutch pressed to my chest. Behind me, I heard impact, grunts of pain, the distinctive sound of fists hitting flesh. Don't look back. Keep moving. Get to safety. I burst through a doorway into a service corridor, fluorescent lights harsh after the romantic courtyard. Footsteps pounded behind me, and I risked a glance back. One of Petrov's men, broad and brutal-looking, gaining fast, the self-defense Marco taught kicked in on instinct. I stopped suddenly, spun, and as the man reached for me, I grabbed his arm and used his momentum to throw him off balance. He stumbled, shocked, giving me precious seconds to keep running. More corridors, more turns. I was lost in the gallery's service areas, my breath coming in gasps. Where was Marco? Was he okay? Had Petrov. A hand grabbed my arm, spinning me around. I struck out blindly, my fist connecting with something solid. Olivia! It's me! Marco, blood on his lip, his suit jacket torn but alive in here. Relief crashed through me so intensely my knees buckled. He caught me, pulling me against him. Are you hurt? His hands ran over me, checking for injuries. No. You? Nothing serious. He pulled out his phone, speaking rapid Italian. My team has Petrov contained. It's over. Over. He made his move, showed his hand. That's all I needed. Marco's smile was dangerous. Now we finish this properly. He led me back through the corridors, emerging into a private room where Petrov sat in a chair, flanked by 2 of Marco's men. The Russian's composure had cracked, fear visible beneath his bravado. You set me up, Petrov said, his accent thicker with stress. You tried to take what's mine. I responded appropriately. Marco pulled out his phone, showing Petrov the screen. Everything you said in that courtyard was recorded. Every threat, every admission. I have enough here to bury you with your own organization and several international agencies. Petrov's face went white. You can't. I already have. Copies are with my lawyers, my contacts in law enforcement, and several journalists who'd love an exclusive about Russian mob operations in Paris. Marco pocketed the phone. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to return my journal, destroy every copy you made, and disappear from my territories. Forever. And if I refuse, then I release everything, and you spend what's left of your short life running from people far more dangerous than me. Marco leaned closer. Choose wisely, Dmitri. This is your only offer. I watched Petrov's face cycle through rage, fear, and finally resignation. Fine, you win. I always do. Marco straightened. My men will escort you to retrieve the journal. Once I verify its return, we're done. But if I ever see you again, if you ever come near Olivia or anyone under my protection, the recording goes public immediately. Clear? Crystal. Marco nodded to his men, who escorted Petrov out. The moment they were gone, the tension drained from Marco's shoulders. He turned to me, his expression softening. It's over. You're safe. Just like that? Just like that. He crossed to me, taking my hands. You did exactly what I asked. Stayed calm, trusted me, moved when I signaled. You were perfect. I hit one of his men. I know. I saw. His smile was genuine now, warm. You're stronger than you think, Olivia. I told you that from the beginning. The adrenaline was fading, leaving me shaky and emotional. Claire can't be brought back, but Petrov will pay for her death in other ways. His reputation is destroyed, his operations compromised. That's justice in our world. He pulled me closer. And now you need to make a choice. What choice? The one I gave you this morning. Stay or go. Choose this life or walk away. His hands cupped my face. I meant what I said. I want you to stay. Not as my translator or my asset, but as my partner. My equal. Your equal in a criminal empire. My equal in a life that's complicated and dangerous, but never boring. Where you'd be protected, valued, and challenged every day. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. Where you'd be mine, and I'd be yours. Completely. I should have asked for time. Should have demanded to go home and think clearly. But standing there in his arms, my heart still racing from danger we'd faced together, the answer felt obvious. I'm already yours, I said quietly. I think I have been since you called me in that car and refused to let me be afraid alone. Something fierce and possessive flared in his eyes. Say it clearly. I need to hear it. I choose you, Marco. I choose this life. I choose to stay. He kissed me then, deep and claiming, one hand tangling in my hair while the other pressed against my back, pulling me impossibly closer. It felt like falling and flying simultaneously, terrifying and exhilarating, and absolutely right. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. Mine. Yours, I agreed. But that goes both ways. You're mine too. Completely and utterly. He smiled. Think your mother will approve? Absolutely not. I'll have to lie about what you do for a living. I own several legitimate businesses. Import-export mostly. Focus on that. He took my hand. Come on, let's go home. Home. Not the mansion where I'd been held, but the place where I'd chosen to stay. The difference felt monumental. 3 months later, I stood in Marco's penthouse overlooking Paris, my camera in hand, capturing the sunset painting the city gold. My equipment had been recovered. My magazine assignment long since completed with a different photographer. But I'd found a new purpose, documenting Marco's world through my lens. The legitimate parts, anyway. I photographed his business meetings, his properties, the life he showed the public. What happened in shadows stayed there, though I was learning to navigate that darkness with increasing confidence. Still taking pictures, Marco appeared behind me, his arm sliding around my waist, pulling me back against his chest. Always. It's who I am. Good, don't lose that. He pressed a kiss to my neck. Your mother called. She wants to visit next month. Is that safe? I've insured it. Petrov kept his word, disappeared completely, and his organization believes he's in hiding after a failed venture. They're not looking for revenge. His arms tightened. You're safe, Olivia. Truly safe. I turned in his embrace, looping my arms around his neck. I switched the wrong bag at an airport and ended up here, with you. Thinking about it still feels surreal. Best mistake you ever made. Or worst, depending on perspective. No. He kissed me softly. Best, because it brought you to me, and I'm never letting you go. I thought about the frightened photographer who'd gotten in the wrong car, who'd found herself trapped with stolen journals and a dangerous man. She felt like someone else now. Someone naive and small. The woman I'd become was harder, more aware, capable of violence when necessary. But also loved fiercely, protected absolutely, and partnered with someone who saw her strength even when she couldn't. I love you, I said, the words still new enough to feel weighty, even though you're terrifying, especially because I'm terrifying. He grinned. I love you too, my accidental photographer who turned out to be exactly what I needed. Outside, Paris glittered in the fading light, beautiful and dangerous and full of secrets, just like the man holding me, just like the life I'd chosen. I'd switched bags at an airport by mistake, and Marco Valentini had said I was his. He'd been right. I was, and he was mine. And somehow, that switched suitcase had led me exactly where I belonged.